What up? What up? Your boy back again with another after work vibe video, man. We got that boy Stephen A. finna pop his shit off with about that boy Jason Whitlock, man. So you know it's gonna be good. You know Stephen A. come with that bullshit sometime. You know sometimes Stephen A. come with it. But one thing Stephen A. is that boy's a character, so you already know what to expect.
There's a few things going on in the world of sports that need to be addressed, but on this particular day, they don't take precedent. Instead, one would be Aaron Rodgers and his situation with the Pat McAfee show. That's necessary to address because, after all, I'm an employee for ESPN. The other would be a fat bastard that has gotten away for far too long talking his bullshit. You wanted some?
Is it me? Or did that sound like the beginning of a diss track? Drop that.
Fine. I'm happy to give it to you, you piece of shit. The Stephen A. Smith show up next, right now.
My man said he ain't putting no punches. My man said he ain't got time for that.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you at the very least 3 times a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I am coming at you from our Los Angeles studios. I'm on the road, so obviously I won't be taking any phone calls today, but to be quite honest with you, I won't be taking any tweets either. I'm not in the mood. I just want to speak and I want to get out of here because I got better things to do with my time, but there's just certain things that are necessary to get into. Before I do that, let me once again thank you all for showing me the bunch of love that you're giving me. Probably by the end of this show, I'll be up to 460,000 subscribers over the first 9 months of this YouTube channel. I can't thank y'all enough for the love and support that you've been giving me. Keep it coming, and I'm going to keep on coming. A little bit later on in the show, I almost never say his name, and that is the name of Jason Whitlock. He is a guy that has a show on Blaze TV. He is the person that I directly allude to as that fat bastard. He's a no good individual, probably the worst individual I've ever had the displeasure of ever being associated with in any capacity. And I will address him in just a few minutes. All I will say is that the things that I'm going to say, please don't hold anybody responsible for it other than me. Nobody. I even took the liberty of calling my pastor to apologize in advance for what I'm going to say about that no good bastard. So I will address that in just a few minutes, and I'm not engaging in hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating. The pastor's name is Pastor A.R. Bernard at Christian Cultural Center. You don't believe me? Call him and ask him. I don't lie.
Okay. He just name dropped, so I'm going to say he did then. If he did all that, that boy name dropped the pastor.
Like some other people I know do. But again, I'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. Before I do that, it's necessary for me because I'm the face of ESPN, and obviously there's a lot of things that went on this week in regards to Pat McAfee and some of the news that he made with his show. And obviously Aaron Rodgers was one of those things. The other stuff that involved Pat McAfee and him calling out an executive and all of that other stuff, all I'm going to tell y'all is this. You don't have to mind your damn business, but I will mind mine. I'm an employee of...
My name Bennett, and I ain't in other words. I hear what that man say. He say he still need to cash them checks, so certain things you just can't talk about.
Of ESPN for my day job. I don't discuss internal matters. That is none of my business. That is above my pay grade. Pat McAfee has his show. He's responsible for everything that goes on with his show. The executives that we answer to at ESPN, they're my bosses. And I'm not going to be stupid enough, irresponsible enough, immature enough to think about that I can talk about family business.
So you kind of think about it. If you watch that Jason Whitlock, all right, so you kind of just co-sign what Jason was saying. I'm just saying, my boy.
I don't do that. That's not going to happen. So don't expect me to speak on that ever. Ever. That's not how I roll. Having said all of that, Aaron Rodgers is a different matter because that's not necessarily an internal matter. That's a sports story. And Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee's show a little more than a week ago and made news talking about one of our other colleagues at or under the Walt Disney banner, which would happen to be Jimmy Kimmel. Aaron Rodgers obviously had a few things to say about Jimmy Kimmel because he doesn't particularly like him.
Right.
If you watch some of the videos where Jimmy Kimmel was making fun of Aaron Rodgers during COVID, when he was making fun of Aaron Rodgers because of some of his conspiracy theories, these are the kind of things that rubbed Aaron Rodgers the wrong way. So when Aaron Rodgers had an opportunity to take a stab or a jab at Jimmy Kimmel, what was it that he said? He said, and I'm looking for it here because I want to make sure that I find the direct quote that Aaron
Stop playing, boy. You know where it's at.
Rodgers said about Jimmy Kimmel, but he basically talked about popping bottles, to be quite honest with you. He said how, everybody was looking forward to the list coming out, et cetera, et cetera. Just reading from my notes here.
There you go.
He doubled down once he had said what he said about Jimmy Kimmel. He said yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, I don't have any apologies, not for that guy from ABC. That's what Aaron Rodgers says. And so subsequently the news came down that Aaron Rodgers would not be on the Pat McAfee show anymore during this football season. Whether that's a permanent decision or whatever, I don't know. Don't care. I support Pat McAfee from the standpoint that I think he's an incredible talent. I like the guy personally. He's straight up. He lets you know where he stands. He's unapologetic about it. He don't give a damn who you are, black, white, male, female. He don't give a damn. He's going to let you know where he stands, and I respect that. As it pertains to the specificity of everything that's transpired, that's a different subject for another day.
Right.
But when Rodgers on Tuesday had shot back at Jimmy Kimmel for making fun of him all of those months, in Rodgers' opinion, he said, I think it's impressive that a man who went to Arizona State and has 10 joke writers can read off a prompter. My education in JUCO and at JUCO and my 3 semesters at Cal, which I'm very proud of, has worked out for me, and I'm glad to see it's worked out for him. He said, but I wish him, as in Jimmy Kimmel, the best, but I don't give a shit what he says about me as long as he understands what I actually said, and I'm not accusing him of being on the list. That was Aaron Rodgers' retort to what Jimmy Kimmel had really, really lost it over.
Yeah, everybody trying to stay away from that list, boy. Man, Jimmy say, put them lawyers on your ass, keep playing.
What Jimmy Kimmel really lost it over was Aaron Rodgers just saying that, folks are not looking forward to that list coming out, and one of those people is Jimmy Kimmel. Epstein, I'm sorry. I got my producers here with me. Jeffrey Epstein, being on the Jeffrey Epstein list, okay? So that's really what it is. If you want to hear what Jimmy Kimmel had to say, just as a reminder, Aaron Rodgers has a very high opinion of himself. He genuinely thinks that because God gave him the ability to throw a football, he's smarter than everybody else. We learned during COVID somehow he knows more about science than scientists. A guy who went to community college, then got into Cal on a football scholarship and didn't graduate. Someone who never spent a minute studying the human body is an expert in the field of immunology. Aaron got 2 A's on his report card, and they were both in the word Aaron. That part was funny.
Dog. That was a good one. All right, Jimmy.
I have to admit that. All I want to say is this. Take Aaron Rodgers at his word. I thought that he was despite long, lengthy ramblings on the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, I did believe and I did appreciate the fact that he came out and said, look, I'm not calling him a pedophile. I'm not alluding to it. I was just taking a shot at a guy that's taking a shot at me.
Right.
And anybody that will want to sit up there and label him such a derogatory, or had such a derogatory label towards him, just don't do it in my name. That's nonsense. I don't want any part of that. So I do appreciate him saying that. Right. But here's the reality of the situation. When Aaron Rodgers said what he said, it did allude to it. There's no escaping that. When he said...
Well, see, it's cool when they do it, but when somebody else do it, it's a prop. So Jimmy be dishing all that shit about everybody else, making all these little jokes. Man, that's part of the game. Now, when somebody come take a shot at you, don't put yourself in that situation. So shut your ass up. We're talking about people, and people won't say nothing about you.
What he said, it did allude to that. You do have some wackos out there that would automatically assume that Jimmy Kimmel was going to be on the list. So because of that negative attention from the Epstein list that you brought towards Jimmy Kimmel, the least you could do would say, I'm sorry about that. That's not what I intended to do. I was wrong for doing that. You could have said it like this. I don't like him. I don't like him a little bit. And I don't give a shit what he has to say about me ever. But I went a bit too far there. And I was wrong.
Aaron is stand on business. A lot of motherfuckers need to be like, Aaron, stand on business. You said it, stand on it.
And left it at that. That's not what Aaron Rodgers elected to do. And as a result of it, it is what it is. He's no longer going to be on the Pat McAfee show for the remainder of this football season.
How much
who knows whether or not he'll ever be back. And as a result, we go from there. As far as it pertains to people looking to give a shot to Pat McAfee, listen, Pat McAfee is his own man. Just like an abundance of people are their own man or their own woman working at ESPN. If I disagree with something you've done, so what? That doesn't mean I don't support you. And I got to tell you this, and I'm going to say it to everybody one last time so everybody understands this. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm very happy to have Pat McAfee at ESPN. Pat McAfee established himself with his own YouTube channel. He bet on himself years ago. He built a following amassing in excess of 2 million followers on YouTube. Okay, give the brother credit where credit is due. And there are people that don't want him to succeed, but there's a lot of people who do. And my only words to Pat McAfee is that as long as his show is on ESPN, anytime he wants me to come on, I'm happy to come on. He's been great to me. And I think he's going to succeed. And the one thing that I do feel compelled to address is these headlines about how his numbers and his ratings don't necessarily measure up to that of First Take. Well, no one has in the mornings. We've been number one for 12 years. But I guarantee you that Pat McAfee show is doing better than the Sports Center show. He succeeded. I guarantee you that Pat McAfee's numbers are climbing. I guarantee you that Pat McAfee's show will continue to get better and better. It's just that I intend for First Take to get better and better as well. He's not in the same time slot as me. I'm not competing with him. I want Pat McAfee to be successful. And guess what? The more successful he is, the better it is for somebody like me. Along with a plethora of other peoples. Because when the model is the model, when you give this, when you don't purchase the talent, you don't employ the talent, you purchase the show. That's a business model. So for people to root against that makes no sense to me. If Pat McAfee succeeds, you have any idea how many floodgates will be opened for other opportunities for other folks if Pat McAfee succeeds? What the hell are you rooting against him for? What are you rooting against him for? Now, is he in a quiet taste? Sure. Does he do things that most of us wouldn't do? Sure. But in the end, whether I agree or disagree with anything and how I feel is none of y'all damn business because that's an in-house matter.
There you go.
He's got my support.
Yeah, you said
he's got my support from the standpoint I want his show to succeed on ESPN. It makes all of us better. And if you understand anything about business, the abundance of layoffs that took place before his arrival, those were employees or independent contractors. If you're losing money and you're trying to offset losses, you let folks go, you write it off, and you move on to a different... Reach out to in time has been warned. It's time for me to address this. I'm only going to do it once.
Thank you.
Because this bastard is worth less than a damn cockroach. He wanted my attention. He's got it.
You've been having your attention.
The Stephen A. Smith Show. Up next. Don't touch that dial. We'll deal with the fat bastard himself right now. Let's roll.
Behold my Jackraps, 100% all white meat grilled or crispy chicken with lettuce, cheese, and sauces, and a warm tortilla for just $3. And they're under 400 calories. So if your goal this year was to save money and eat healthy-ish, we got you.
Hi, Mark Barden at Sandy Hook Promise here. When the gunman shot his wife.
Even your little rolling kind of whack, man.
What's that? What you put in the desk box on my desk for?
Open it. Just open it. Just open it.
Act like it's a bomb or something.
Yeah, you couldn't have opened it for me? What?
Some ugly faces, though.
Ah, my new book on paperback. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. It works for me. It works for me. Y'all see this? New foreword and all. Stephen A. in paperback, straight shooter, memoir, second chances and first takes. I haven't gotten over that picture. It does look pretty smooth. I must say so myself. It's a bestseller.
Get to it.
I'll hold on.
How was that? Every time a book come out,
Hope you go out.
no matter who the author is, it always says a bestseller. Why they be doing that, man? If that book probably sold 100 copies, the bestseller. Every goddamn book come out, end up as a bestseller. That's not a good, attractive line no more.
Thank y'all so much for the love and
Folks ain't buying
support.
that.
Wouldn't be here
Bestseller.
without you. Thank you. Thank you.
People ain't talking about you like that.
Thank you. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. By the way, that quote from Aaron Rodgers about Jimmy Kimmel, which initially sparked this whole brouhaha, was, quote, "There's a lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, that are really hoping that list doesn't come out." That's what he had said. Couldn't find it for some reason. I apologize.
Okay,
Let me get back to the subject at hand.
Take what you take on it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
I feel him. And stand on business. He said what he said.
As a black man,
Oh, Lord.
sitting in this seat, the level of vitriol that I have to absorb is something that I understand 99.99% of the time. You're a former player and you want to crucify me, that's fine. You're somebody that was involved in some kind of public incident that I had to speak on, whether you're the wife or ex-girlfriend or some of a former player, whatever, I get it.
Where are you going with this, my dog?
You're a present-day athlete and you don't like my evaluation of what has transpired before our very eyes and what I'm witnessing, that's cool.
Come on, where you
But I swear to you, on everything that I love, it's not personal. I'm a sports reporter and sports commentator. That is what I have been throughout my career. It is my responsibility to tell you what I see through my lens, how I feel about it, what my perspective is, etc. It's not like I'm sitting at home with absolutely nothing to do and no obligation to touch on anything, but I feel the need to invoke and ingratiate my thoughts, opinions, etc., upon the world. I actually get paid to do this.
Okay.
And because of that, sometimes my opinions, my thoughts, my feelings, etc., are things that you would not like. But I have never lied to you. Ever.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
If I wrote a story or I wrote an article, it's based on the things that I've been told, what I've seen, and what I feel. It is rare that I talk about myself on a personal level because my personal life is not anybody's business and I don't get into other people's personal life. It's not something that I do. Many figures in the world of sports find themselves in personal situations, not lawlessness, not unlawful things or anything like that, but there's plenty of situations,
Right.
Michael, Sherry, Juvie, where I've seen certain things and I turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to it because it's none of my business. And I leave it alone.
Right.
And one of the other things that I never do, I never attack my colleagues. I might disagree with something somebody says or does, and I might have an obligation to speak on it because it's in the news or whatever, but I don't speak against my colleagues. Once humanity comes into play, that's a given. Here's the other. That's not real work. Think about this for a second. I'm supposed to be covering sports, but I make a career out of talking about my colleagues. That ain't work. That's you finding some slick way to get a check because you can't get a job.
Ooh.
That's Jason Whitlock. That's who the hell he is. Now, I have sat back for years, at least 9 to 10 years,
Okay.
saying absolutely nothing about this man. I never uttered the words fat bastard out of my mouth until a few months ago. So that means that the previous 9 years, you never heard me speak on him at all.
But he was a fat bastard.
But now
though.
it's necessary. Excuse me. Because you see, if you listen to the fat bastard, I didn't play high school ball, even though my coach's name was Harvey Stoller. It was Thomas A. Edison Vocational and Technical High School. I played there my senior year. I was in a basketball tournament at Fashion Institute of Technology where I dropped 27 points and got a scholarship because the coach came calling me after that and what have you. If you listen to him,
So what's up with the average then?
I never had a scholarship to Winston-Salem State, even though it's on the books. Just call the university. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an honorary doctorate member. I have an honorary doctorate from Winston-Salem State University because of my contributions to Winston-Salem State. I'm called Dr. Smith.
Because how much
Has
money you
something
gave
to
him?
also do with the contributions that I make because I believe about upliftment. I'm an ambassador for HBCU Week, and I've partnered with Ashley Christopher and Mayor Persicki in Delaware and others to generate over 10,000 scholarships in excess of over $65 million in scholarships for African Americans. But this man will tell you I'm lying. He even went so far as
Did he
to
talk about that
say
stuff?
my autobiography, where I talk about my mother, my father, my sisters, the business, my hiring and firing and rehiring at ESPN. I didn't write it. I didn't write my own memoir, which, by the way, is a New York Times bestseller, something he wouldn't know anything about.
I swear. Every book
Did you
come
know
out,
that
come
it's
out
now
with
on
bestseller,
paperback?
man. I don't know.
It just came out yesterday on paperback. Do you know that you could go to Amazon.com, straightshooterbook.com, or a bookstore nearest you to get my book in paperback? Do you know that when people are normally selling 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 copies, I've sold over 400,000? Did you know? Did you know? Did you know? But he will tell you, I didn't write it. He's seen my
Behind his
writing.
book
Really?
like that? I ain't heard not one person talk about a Stephen A. book.
This article is an article written on Deadspin.com. The title, How Jason Whitlock is Poisoning
Got the man on top of-
ESPN's Black Grant Land. Because remember, Bill Simmons, who's now at Spotify doing a great job, obviously had Grantland at ESPN, and upon his departure, Jason Whitlock was supposed to take up the mantle and create a black website for folks. This article was written by a Greg Howard, published on April 27th, 2015. The same Jason Whitlock that said he's seen my writing, the same Jason Whitlock that implied that I couldn't write, the same Jason Whitlock that said that
he
I'm
did imply
lying.
that.
That I'm lying. What does this man do? Why would I call up this article? There's a plethora of reasons why I would do so, ladies and
Just
gentlemen.
halfway through, y'all.
One of the reasons would be because it's as in-depth as it gets about how scurrilous, how trifling, how despicable this man is. But there's also another reason
What was that?
that I'd pick up this article.
Okay, tell us.
Let me read the graph to you that it says.
All right.
Keep in mind, Stephen A. can't write. This staff, the one Whitlock was praising by way of warnings that if the writers and editors wouldn't align with his vision, he would get rid of them, was not the one Whitlock wanted. The Undefeated, because that was the name of the title before it ultimately became Andscape. The Undefeated was originally meant to attract the best and brightest young black talent in the country, with Whitlock's aim set so high that he at one point seriously tried to recruit the Atlantic's Ta-Nehisi Coates, the sharpest cultural commentator in the business today. As things worked out, though, those young writers comprehensively refused to work with him. So did big-name ESPNers like Howard Bryant, Jamel Hill, and Stephen A. Smith. I couldn't write, huh? While you were on Blaze TV, spewing that bullshit to people. Did you tell him that?
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Did you tell them how you stood outside of First Take begging me to talk to you?
No.
Did you tell them that once this same article in Deadspin came out, weeks later you wrote a lengthy apology to me in an email, begging me to forgive you, pointing out how you were betrayed by this particular writer, so you know how I must feel that you betrayed me?
Nah, Stevie, he ain't tell us none of that. Show us. He didn't say none of this to us.
Did you tell the folks that? You bitch.
Ooh.
Did you tell them?
Ooh.
You fat piece of shit. Did you tell them that? Got the names. We got Jamel Hill. We got Howard Bryant. You want me to bring up the other writers that wouldn't work for you? Why it took you nearly 2 years to get an article out? Because you ran that shit so bad you were running it into the ground? What a disgrace you were to John Skipper, the former boss of ESPN, or the host of others.
Opinion, man.
You want me to talk about that? Because I got receipts. I got the email.
Okay, show us.
Want me to talk about that?
Yeah.
Now, just for everybody that wants to understand, how could this possibly be? Because once upon a time, I actually tried to speak up for this damn cretin. I knew he was a piece of shit.
So why you try to speak up?
But I said, look, maybe he's misunderstood. Why would I do that, ladies and gentlemen? Because sometimes as black folks, we get in our own way. We think that all of us must be of one monolithic thinking, that we need to be completely and totally aligned. And any deviation from that brings into question our quote unquote blackness.
You fell for that? Yeah. That shit don't work on me.
Martin Luther King was a man of peace. Malcolm X was by any means necessary. They can't possibly be on the same page. Even though their agendas was for the upliftment and the preservation of our race of people. So I understand when we talk about stuff like this, how people can sit up there and say, how did it get to this? How did it get to this? Remember when I got suspended years ago?
For what? Refresh my memory.
You know, was out there writing stuff, smiling in my face 1 minute, talking smack about me behind my back, and then ultimately writing it was him. Remember when I supposedly used people were speculating that he used the N-word on the air and all of this other stuff? He was the first one out there trying to say that I did it. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't do it on the air. In my humble opinion, I'm telling you that. However, it's not like I didn't use the N-word when I was off the air, when I was talking to my fellas, or I was talking to other folks who happen to be black. I am not a proponent of using that word often, nor am I advocating that that word be used now. I'm just acknowledging the guilt that comes associated with me in terms of when I was younger. But I was always saying we as black people
You still say it. Don't lie.
communicate how we want to communicate with each other. I love John Wooten, who's been associated with the Fritz Alliance, the Fritz Alliance, the Fritz Alliance, Fritz Pollard Alliance. Love that man. Love his contributions to the NFL. But when we would get into it in the past on rare occasions, it wasn't that he wanted the eradication of the N-word, because I support that. Right. My issue with him was, hey, you shouldn't be encouraging the NFL to fine us and penalize us for using it amongst ourselves.
Right.
How can a race of people who actually made the word iniquitous be in a position to punish us for using the word with one another?
Preach.
I had a problem with that. And I stand by that. But I digress. My point is, in bringing up all of that, Jason Whitlock pounced on it. Because that's what he does. You see, what he does is...
What?
He's the one that puts himself in front of white folks.
Hold on, boy. Hold
the
on.
White folks. Not all white folks.
Hold on. I know he ain't finna say what I think he finna say, Stephen A. Boy, because you one of the biggest ones.
Not most white folks, but the white folks that dare we say may have a problem with black folks. He says,
okay.
I'm your man.
Oh.
That's what he does.
Oh. So you call him Ruckus? He Ruckus, y'all? Okay.
You think I'm lying?
He
Ask ESPN. Ruckus. Ask Fox. Ask the Kansas City Star. Ask them all. Jamel Hill. Rob Parker. Chris Broussard. Skip Bayless. Yours truly. Along with a host of black folks all over this country, every single one of them will confirm what the hell I'm saying about this piece of garbage. Ladies and gentlemen, as a black man, I often told y'all, I cannot imagine as a black man, knowing our history, anything worse than a white supremacist. That is until Jason Whitlock came along.
What'd you call that man?
He's
Django?
worse than them. He is the worst,
not Django.
most despicable, lying, no good, fat ass human being I have ever known in my life. And I'm going to take a break because I got more.
Ooh.
In a minute. You'll listen.
All right, man. I think I'm going to end it right there. I don't know if we're going to pick it back up. Do another little video, finish it off with about 25 minutes or so, man. But till next time, holla at your boy. Steven say he ain't here for the ruckus, man. He ain't here for the ruckus.